So here I am going over a couple things now. We're going to the next section of the course. We're going to go over a very important part of the cord packing process is the cord. And also we're going to go over Hemodent, which is an agent that we use to stop the bleeding as well too. So what's super important about working on the cord packing is that when you have a cord, you want to make sure that the size and the brand is appropriate with what you're trying to do. So for me, my preference on using a cord, I like to use a 00 or a zero cord. It's just very thinner, it's easier to pack into the sulcus. I always ask my doctor to make sure that they're okay with that. Most of the time that they are, as long as we can get the cord down efficiently, they're usually okay. But cords come in many different sizes, many different shapes, many different brands. There's so many different types you can use and make it a little bit easier in order to get it down efficiently. In addition to that, we're also going to talk about in this course how to control the bleeding. So what happens is once you have a cord and you're packing it down to the sulcus gets a little bit irritated, it gets a little upset. So we dip it in something called Hemodent, which actually is something that we use that decreases and stops the bleeding. So what happens is I will cut my cord, make sure it's the right size. I will dip it in the Hemodent, and I'll show you that on the next session here at the very end. Dip it in the Hemodent, make sure that it's nice and soaked really well, and then I pack that soaked cord into my sulcus with my cord packer. So it's super important to make sure that the gums are nice and healthy and that they're not bleeding. So now I'm going to show you a couple of things, a couple of different cords that we use in the dental field that make it a little bit easier and nicer to pack the cord, along with showing you different types of things that we use to keep the bleeding down to a minimum. So the first cord that we have is a Gengipak. It's very common in the dental community. People use it probably in most offices. This actually is a size 1. This color is green, and this actually is a braided cord. And this actually is impregnated with epinephrine, which means that it already has a agent inside of it that already stops the bleeding. So some doctors may or may not choose to dip it in the Hemodent because it already has the agent in it to already stop bleeding. For me, I always want to be safe than sorry, so I always dip it in the Hemodent regardless. So this is a Gengipak. Again, it's green. It's a really good cord. Most doctor offices do use it. And again, it is a braided cord, and it actually already has an agent already in there to stop the bleeding. And this comes in different sizes from 00 to 0 to 1 to 2. The next cord that's very popular as well is a really good cord. It's also the size number 1. Now this is not impregnated with any epinephrine to stop the bleeding, so I would definitely make sure that I dip this particular cord in this agent that does stop the bleeding to make sure that everything looks nice and clean. This one is a knitted cord, and you can see it's a little bit different in the size and also the color of it. It's just a matter of a preference. I believe with this particular company, they use different colors to promote different sizes, which is a good thing as well. This last cord is also a braided cord as well. I use this actually quite a bit in the office that I work at. I actually use all 3, but this also is very good. It's also braided, and this one actually also is impregnated with the epinephrine, which also stops the bleeding as well too. So they're all 3 very good cords, very efficient, all by really good companies. They all get the job done, which is great. It comes down to, again, doctor preference, assistant preference, and just how the gums look on the patient. So another important part that I'm going to show you here is what we use to actually stop the bleeding. So what happens is once we cut our cord, as you can see these 3 are cut here, we'll take the cord and we will use Hemodent. Now this Hemodent is something that we use in the dental field that controls the bleeding of the sulcus. So what I will do, I will cut the cord, I will dip the Hemodent inside of the cord and make sure that it's nice and good, make sure there's enough Hemodent on the cord. Or what I can also do too is use Viscostat. So Viscostat is another agent that we use that controls the bleeding to make sure that everything is nice and clean when it's time to take the impression. I believe that most assistants prefer Hemodent, but this Viscostat works just as well too, does the same thing. So Viscostat is very important as well at making sure that the process of packing the cord is nice and clean, and that you can see the margins of the tooth. Your doctor will be happy, your patient will be happy, your gums will be happy, and you'll be happy as well too. So again, the Hemodent is used to make sure that the bleeding is decreased once you're packing the cord. And we can also use Viscostat to make sure as well that the bleeding is also decreased as well too, which is another great agent that we use in the dental field, just to make sure that everything is nice and clean. Again, these cords here are very great. I've used them all myself. They're all very good, and I've used them before. So in this segment, what I want you to take away from this is to make sure that you know there's different types of cords that we have used in the dental field. All the different brands are very, very good brands. And the Hemodent is something that we use to decrease the bleeding. And the Viscostat is another agent that we also use to decrease the bleeding as well too. They're both very good. Doctors love it as well. As an assistant, I just want to use whatever's easier, make my doctor happy, make sure that they're good, and we can kind of go through the process a little bit easier. That's it for this portion of the course. I hope you learned a lot about Hemodent, Viscostat, and all the different cord types. I'll see you again soon.